Welcome back to another debate, and this time we're going to talk about CJ Egan-Riley, one of the best defenders in the Championship. Probably not even the best defender at the turf, though, to be fair, but still up there easily in the top 10 in the Championship. However, the big thing for Burnley is he is currently, as we are recording this, he is currently out of contract in the summer. Now, this is a young defender who's in the England under-20s setup.
Good the other night as well.
Yeah, he was very good the other night. He's going to be sold for a lot of money by somebody at some stage. And as we were just talking about on the last one, the board bringing players in to resell, make big profits. CJ is one of these players. We need to get him tied down. It'll be a massive blow for Burnley, no matter what league we're in next year.
Yeah, I think he's a monster. I think he's been overshadowed really by Esteve, who obviously is outrageous at Championship level and will go on to better things. But CJ Egan-Riley, I mean, he wasn't even really a starter at the beginning of the season, was it? Was it
Joe Worrell and Steve were starting.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Worrell. So he's come in sort of under the radar. His athleticism's on peak, reads the game really well, strong, and he's part of that Burnley backline. He's a massive part of that Burnley backline. And kind of the thing is right now, is kind of Leeds had the problem, not the problem, but the focus very much was on Strout last season. And kind of Rodon went under the radar, really. Yeah. But Egan-Riley, there's a genuine conversation right now to who's been the better performer, him or Esteve. And I think that's credit to him, really.
Yeah, I think when we did, a few weeks back, we did some sort of like combined 11s, didn't we? I can't remember if it was you or you, Jim. One of you had CJ Egan-Riley in your 11 over Steve. I think to Burnley fans, some Burnley fans will understand that, but I think Steve has definitely been the outstanding performer. They're two different defenders. Like Steve is a proper old school Ben Mee type defender where he'll put his body on the line. He does some brilliant last stitch tackles. Whereas CJ is your better ball carrier. He'll spray the diagonal balls left and right. So they complement each other really well.
Do you think it's dependent on promotion?
Potentially. I think he knows he's got a very high ceiling, so I think he knows he can probably be in the Premier League next season. Whether he's a starter or not, that's a different debate, but I think he knows he can be in the Premier League next season. So I think it is part to do with it. Obviously, we've got Josh Brownhill out of contract in the summer as well. I think that is more dependent on promotion. I think he is waiting to see where we are. I always feel like Burnley are always in this position with players like Josh Brownhill out of contract this summer. Connor Roberts was until he signed the new deal. CJ Egan-Riley. James Tarkowski left for free. Nick Pope left for free.
Yeah.
Ben Mee, I think, left for free. No, Nick Pope didn't leave for free, sorry. He was into the last year of his contract, I think it was. So Newcastle basically sent us sod all for him.
But right Ben now, Mee why would they sign a contract with you? They wouldn't, would they? It wouldn't make sense for their careers at all.
But that's what I mean. Don't get into this position. Like, this should have been... The can's been kicked too far down the road.
This is the way it's been going, though, isn't it?
I do feel like there's more player power these days than there were 15, 20 years ago.
There definitely is. We sold Illiman and Dye and Sander Berger as we got promoted to the Prem because they were in the last year of the deal.
Yeah.
And it's swinging that way. And El Ahmedhodzic has got a year left in the summer. So we'll have a decision to make. If he doesn't sign a new deal, chances are we could entertain offers for him then, even if we're in the Premier League. So
never felt like that as well. I always feel like when a club went up from the Championship to the Premier League, they keep hold of players.
They'd all just sign new contracts.
They'd all sign new deals. They've done it. It's meritocracy in the Championship. They've been brilliant. They go up. But I do think now it's very much like you are still vulnerable, massively vulnerable when you go up.
If we go up and Anel don't want to sign a deal, or he just sees how we go in Premier League, really, are we going to be ambitious? Are we going to sort of bring in quality players to give us a strong chance of survival? He gets 6 months playing in he knows he's going to play. He'll play in the Premier League, and then in January he's got 6 months left.
Yeah.
And chances are we're going to go back down.
Yeah.
If we go up, he's just going to leave us for now. So player power is huge now. He's going to get a £3-4 million signing on fee somewhere, and you've got to think that Brownhill and CJ thinking along similar lines, really.
I think it's key to look at as well. Like, there's a difference, and we'll go into it in other videos, I'm sure. There's a difference between the Championship and the Premier League and defending. Egan-Riley might be decent now, but we're going to come on to this when it comes to other players.
Correct.
But the proof is in the pudding when you're in the Premier League and you get an absolutely rinsed at the back with
look at Taylor Howard-Bellis, for example. He was, really, really good for us in the Championship. All right, he never played for us in the Premier League, but he's not been, ripping up trees for Southampton in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other examples as well. Connor Roberts. To be fair, that brings me on nicely to a debate about Brownhill. Do you think, I'm going to mix these two together now, do you think he's a Premier League player, Josh Brownhill, or a Championship player? Because look at how good he's doing now this season for us. There's some Burnley fans watching this who think he's awful, but I think the proof's in the pudding.
Not awful,
yeah,
Such a good player.
I rate him. There's some. I think what it is, because sometimes he plays a little bit deeper, for, to make room for Hannibal, or Sean Dyche played him, in the double pivot in the past. People have a conception of him where he's poor, because he's poor in that position. But when you play him in the 8 or the 10, he's much better. He's much better. But that brings me on nicely. Do you think he's just a good Championship player, or do you think he can hold his own in the Premier League?
Well, I've always been a big sort of supporter really when it comes to Brownhill, but I've been rinsed by a lot of Leeds fans for that. A lot of Leeds fans, probably
really?
A lot of Leeds fans. Brownhill, but on stream, really, Josh Brownhill. But I do think it's probably been probably his best season, or one of his best seasons so far in his career.
The year we won the league at Acanto, I think.
But numbers wise,
I think this season, isn't it? I think on the eye test and stuff, which people.
We can talk about Burnley's defence, but without Josh Brownhill...
Yeah, without his goals, we're nowhere near.
You're nowhere near.
Because we don't have anyone to put the ball in the back of the net.
And for that period of time as well, where, we weren't talking about Edwards, and obviously, I know Benson's back featuring now, but weren't talking about Burnley's attack whatsoever. He's the one propping you up, really.
Yeah,
Zian
still is. He scored a couple of goals recently. I can't remember where he scored. Rich Swansea?
Swansea and Cardiff.
Swansea got you going, yeah.
Cardiff he scored as well, didn't they?
So I mean, he's still doing it, even though Edwards is there, but Edwards is helping with that.
He's consistent. But back to the conversation of being a Premier League player, I think Brownhill would be almost like he's the perfect in-between player, isn't he? I think he's the perfect in-between.
He's a Bamford.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would probably say, I've always said with him, with Leeds over the last 5 years with Brownhill, if we were to ever go in for him, he'd probably be a bench option for me in the Premier League. So I don't know if he's ready to... It depends on the framing of the question, doesn't it? Is he ready to start in the Premier League, or would he be a good bench option? I look at someone like, for us, Joel Peru, Eli Gruev. I think they're decent bench options. They're not starters in the Premier League.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
28, 29, I think, off the top of my head. I'm not 100% certain on that. Apologies if it's wrong.
So it's really his last big contract this season.
I think that's another. This is his last big move. I think this is his last big potential
his last
move.
chance, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So he could be waiting.
I really like him as a player, and I agree with Connor. I think he falls into that middle ground where he's not proven in the Premier League consistently, but he's too good for the Championship. You put him in that 8 to 10, I like him in the 10. Me. Having said that, I don't know whether he gets in our team over Callum O'Hare, personally. So that's just a personal choice, and some people could argue for or against it. The gap is so big to the Premier League. So if he decides Burnley's not his next, he's going to pastures new, don't mean he's going to start for an Everton. He might just be sitting on bench on a big contract.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when you look at the style of player. Brownhill, I think, is probably more athletic, more physical. He's had that Premier League experience as well. You look at someone like Callum O'Hare, it's something a little bit different.
He's not proven it in Premier League.
And maybe a little bit more of a flair luxury player in that number 10, where he could be found out a little bit with the defensive midfielders in the Prem. I think with Brownhill, you kind of have... It'd be a proper... I think it's almost like a new signing if you get him down to a contract. I do wonder where he'd go in the Premier League. I actually think they're your biggest threat. I think if Sheffield United go up and you don't go up, I think they'll look to pick a lot of your team off.
I think we'll go for CJ and Brownhill for note.
Yeah,
and get a sign on.
I mean,
I think it's very Sheffield United to go for. It's very Sheffield United. And you got to think Brownhill is. I know this is awful for you lot, but Brownhill is a Chris Wilder player, 100%. He's got the exact same haircut as they all have. Do you know what I mean? They all look the same. Do you remember when you went up in that?
They need hair like Alioski. Is that what they all need? Hair like Alioski.
Do you remember the 18-19 season where all your players look the same?
No,
all of them.
What, you mean winners?
Winners.
Yeah, they look like winners to me.
Second. Go on.
But yeah, it's interesting with the Brownhill thing. I agree. I think he's too good for the Championship. Not good enough, probably, for the Premier League. He's been relegated his last 2 years in the Premier League, for example.
I hate that argument, though.
He's been relegated.
I hate that argument because that would be very much like Jayden Bogle. I know he cringes at this, but Jayden Bogle got relegated with those 104 goals conceded. He was part of a team, but for me, Jayden Bogle,
he's another one.
I personally believe, it definitely could go either way with him on the Premier League.
Yeah,
but I, has been very hypercritical with certain Leeds players who I don't think will make the step up. I do think with a better defence and a better midfield around him, I think Bogle could make that step up. I know you think differently, but I think it's...
I hope you do start with him in Premier League.
But I think it is sometimes a little bit harsh to say...
If they go up.
If they go up.
But I do
think
it is a bit harsh to just say if a certain player has been part of a certain setup, then they can't make it in the Premier League ever again.
I just think having watched him as well, it's not that I don't think he can make it. I do agree he's one of them players that needs to kick on in the Prem. He needs to do something in the Prem. He's been in the Prem 3-4 seasons, I think now, and he's never really set the world alight. But the problem with it is sometimes, for some reason in the Prem, Company did it, Dyche did it, they start bringing him a little bit deeper. I'm not sure what it is about Brownhill in the Prem, but managers start bringing him a little bit deeper, and then potentially in his athleticism, like you said, and his physicality.
Or do you choose not
and then
to
he
go
gets
with
found out?
Do you choose not to go with a tenant Prem because it's a little bit more of a luxury position?
Potentially, yeah. That could be the thinking, but it's an interesting one with Josh. I'm not sure which way we're going to go with it.
I think he leaves. Up the blades.
I think you'll get. I think all three of us will get to the Premier League. So I think they'll both sign new contracts. I think they'll both stay.
Fingers crossed. Let us know in the comments below if you think they will.